Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 15th and best episode of the Hashcast. And again, I have a guest cooler than myself, the amazing Gene Leggett. Gene, how are you?
I am fine. What a great intro.
Well, that's good. You deserve it. You deserve it. When I was looking at your portfolio, I was like, oh boy. Like, usually I can find a good line of conversation, but you have done so much that we're going to have to cut this up in several segments, but I think it'll be just fine. But I'll give you the floor because you have done so much to give yourself a proper introduction. Like, who are you and what do we know you for? What should we know you for?
Ooh. Well, I like to start people off with letting them know that I'm a stand-up comedian with an English degree that now runs a video game company with my husband. And that kind of sets things up because I don't have the tech background. He does.
Mm-hmm.
And we have started One More Story Games about 5 years ago. He had this idea that he wanted to make it possible for traditional writers to take their short stories and novels and make narrative games as easy as something that an 8-year-old could do. So that's what we've been doing for the last 5 years, and we've actually done it. Just kind of crazy.
That is impressive, because I've read the story on your website, the hacker and the hustler. But what made you take that leap? Because that's quite the thing to do.
It's, well, depending on which videos that you've caught of us on YouTube and interviews that we've done all over the place, Blair is a video game veteran. Like, he's been in this since 2001. He worked for EA, he worked for Zynga, and 6 years ago he had a near-death experience where his doctors had made a horrible mistake with his medication and nearly killed him.
Oof.
And we thought, you know what, life is too short. Why don't we go back to his hometown, because Barrie, Ontario is a pretty affordable place to live as opposed to where we were before, which is Vancouver and San Francisco.
Dear Lord. Yeah.
And why not try this? So we actually both started off. Blair was going to work on his idea for this prototype of our game engine. And I was like, great, you do that. I literally am going to go do stand-up comedy. I was going to teach laughter yoga, which in this town, people still remember me for teaching laughter yoga. Okay. They call me Joyful Gene here.
Okay.
And, and it was really clear about 6 months in that he, the hacker, could really use a great hustler. And I was like, yeah, let me see if I can do this. Yeah. Let's combine our forces. And it's been a lot of fun. It's had a lot of challenges. We've both learned a lot in the last 5 years. I'm actually giving quite a few talks later this fall internationally at various games conferences to give a 5-year perspective on our studio.
Okay.
I'm going to toot my home for a second.
Of course you can.
We've built the game engine.
Yeah.
We taught over 100 kids how to use the game engine, which was actually designed for adults. But if you can teach an 8-year-old, you can teach a 40-year-old. We've raised over $500,000 Canadian from our friends. And we have also created and published 7 games on our website. And we're working with a massively well-known author right now on a very important project. Yeah. So sometimes I feel like we haven't done enough.
Yeah.
I wish that we were actually further along. And then other people look at us and go, wow, you guys are really far ahead. So it's a balance of those two things.
Yeah, that's pretty... Like, I want to talk about that super famous author later on, but, like, I've done my homework, so I know what it is that you build in the engine and how it's used for kids. But for those who do not know what that is exactly, because I think it's so cool, can you dig into that a little deeper?
Yeah, absolutely. So the game engine is called StoryStylus, and I think people sometimes forget that the stylus, the thing that you use with your iPad, that is actually the name of the thing, was the very first writing implement.
Okay.
And the idea with StoryStylus is it's supposed to be the souped-up Word or WordPress that we've broken down the building blocks of narrative in game. So you got your people, your places, your things, your conversations, and everything sort of has like a pre-baked UI that you can customize and things like that. And 3 years ago, actually it was 4 years ago, 4 summers ago, I jokingly said to Blair in our first office, why don't we next year rent out the space across the hall and we'll have kids play test our game engine and their parents can pay us, which ultimately turned into our summer camps. And the TED talk that I gave, or the TEDx talk, is called What 10-Year-Olds Taught Us About Our Tech Startup. Because neither of us come from an education background. We are not teachers. We never learned how to teach children. Instead, what we did was, it's like, okay, well, how would we approach working with an author who's normally writing linear stories?
Mm-hmm.
How do we get them to imagine something that has branching narrative and consequence for player choice?
Yeah.
And what was really eye-opening is these kids, I think because they grow up so young already playing games, they have an innate sense of how to build a game.
Yeah.
So we get them to sit down with one of our game designers. They scope out a very basic game, and yeah, they go at it. They write, they draw, they do the coding in Lua script.
Yeah.
And within 18 hours, they have a game made.
That is crazy.
Yeah. You can actually check out Attack of the Killer Zombie Cats on our website, which is a 10-minute game done by an 11-year-old girl where you play as Barack or Michelle Obama to defeat Trumpy Cat.
This is so on brand for me. But I'm just trying to picture, without having to play the game, like, is it like a graphic novel that you can play? How do I picture it, what these games look like?
I would sort of, well, it's interesting how StoryStylus has versatility in that some games will look more like your classic 2D point-and-click adventure game.
Mm-hmm.
There's that. Because essentially you're taking a static image and you're saying this region is clickable, attach an action to it, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are perspective maps, some of them are top-down maps, and some of them are going to be like, for example, with the game that we're working on right now, it's a hybrid between a visual novel and a point-and-click adventure. Our games, the ones that we internally produce, they're very text-heavy with graphics, but for us, we're trying to mainstream this idea of book meets game. In fact, book meets game leads to our website, onemorestorygames.com.
There you go. Good plug. So I find it interesting because I have dabbled in like writing, like not, and I don't mean stories or stories, like fiction, but it's fun, but I never got around to finish it. And I think by putting a game engine behind it, all of a sudden you create an entire new possibility to tell your story. So if you're like a newbie writer like myself, would this be a new path you could consider? Is it available for anyone? Is it an engine you can buy? Is it how does it work? How do I become a game developer through your software, if it's possible at all?
Yes, it is possible. So the game engine is available for people to be able to go and try it out. I think right now there's a 3-month free subscription that people can go and try out. And we've just changed our monthly. So we've changed from an annual fee to a monthly subscription because people seem to be very confused. And so it's $5 a month after your 3 months if you really like it. And that really is just paying for your hosting, right? That's like for a cup of fancy coffee a month. You can go and you can create these games. And what's interesting, I mean, when I talk about in the TEDx is in the first year, these kids were really great. They gave us feedback that adults are reticent to give you, right? They're like, this sucks, this is broken, I want this feature. And adults will just be like, this is delightful, right? And by the time we rolled around to the second year, those kids were blowing our minds with, like, they were coding. Some of them were coding by the afternoon of the first day. Most of them were coding definitely by the second day, which is, we don't normally get into that until the Wednesday. So I was just like, what's going on? But it became more intuitive for them to be able to use StoryStylus. They were, like, there's one game in there that it's not publicly available. It's called the Lime Merchant. And you have to go pick your limes, collect them in your inventory, and then you have to sell them, and you have to be polite to the people that you're selling to. So it's using inventory, it's using rapport. And this girl, we had a bunch of sponsors, so we had her in for 2 weeks. She did voiceovers of everybody at the camp for characters in her game. And it's like, that is so cool for a kid to see their story come to life that way, right? And
is it just a button she can click, like add voice, or like how does it work?
Well, I mean, she She recorded her own voice and then she just uploaded it into the media
Okay.
uploader within StoryStylus. So you can do voiceovers, you can do soundtracks and sound effects.
Yeah.
So there's 3 individual audio
Okay.
tracks
Yeah.
for just audio itself. And I mean, it's funny when we first set out, I don't know, I like reading games.
Mm-hmm.
I like reading, so I never really gave too much thought about the sound component.
Yeah.
And when we started adding sound into our games, it was like, whoa. It
Wow.
just brought a whole new level of personality to it. I'm like, okay, this is cool. Um, that same girl wrote to us last month and said, hey, it's been 2 years. Hi, I miss you guys.
Yeah.
And can I get my password? Because I forgot.
Yeah.
By the way, thanks to you, my coding confidence has gone through the roof and I'm making GPS dog collars now at school.
That is so cool. It is like,
so, I mean,
it's so amazing.
It's cool. It is cool.
Like I wanted to talk about about this so bad when I learned what you did with this, because one, it's super cool to get access to like video game development. I think it's a great setup. Like I'm working with Construct 2 now to build my first platformer, and it's hard.
I've been following.
Yeah, it is so hard. But so this seems pretty accessible. Like you said, you can teach an 8-year-old, so I should be okay with that as well, I hope.
Yeah. I mean, these 8-year-olds have the benefit of us being in the room with them.
Sure, yeah.
But we've had, because our target audience is readers,
Mm-hmm.
our target creator is our authors,
Yeah.
right? And so we've been working with a couple of authors to sort of be in the background and help them when they need help. But there was an author recently who just made a very simple point and click, and it was I would call it a visual novel style,
Mm-hmm.
but with his own art. And he did it all. Like, I was quite impressed. He did the entire thing just watching YouTube tutorials.
Mm-hmm.
So, like anything, there's going to be a learning curve.
Yeah.
And if people have the patience, if Kira can make a 10-minute game about Trumpy Cat in an 18-hour span, because she has the patience to go through the help files, to watch the videos, we try to take everybody step by step by step, because it is meant, like you talked about it, the accessibility piece. Our driving mission and passion is, if you can lower the barrier to entry in the game space, we're going to change the content. It doesn't matter if people ultimately create content with us, but I want more diverse and inclusive stories to be told. And this is just one extra tool that facilitates that.
Oh yeah, because giving this to kids is such a cool concept, because their brains are like way cooler than my brain is. Because when I look at my own 3.5-year-old, like, she goes places, man, she tells stories that don't make any sense to me, but she's like so evolved. Like, give her a game engine to tell a story in a couple of years, obviously, but you're gonna get content you've never seen before, and I think that is so cool with what you've built, that we're gonna be able to see that develop
with both kids and with adults.
Yeah, because
right?
You give it to people who never had the chance, right?
Exactly. And over the years, we've collected some really interesting inquiries. Like, for example, locally, there's a man who survived the London Blitz. And during World War II, during the bombing from the Germans to England, his family shipped him off into the countryside. And he came to us and he said, could I make a game about that? I'm like, yes, you can. I would call it a story more than a game. And it can be an interactive story. There was a woman who wanted to create a companion piece to a documentary she was doing on Japanese internment camps. She's like, can I make a game? And I'm like, let's not call it a game. Let's call it an interactive story. So for some people, it's going to be a game. And some, it's going to be an interactive experience or story. There's so many amazing stories out there that should be told in this format.
And do you actively chase these stories, or do you, like, you've mentioned some people just approaching you to do it, but I think there's like a world of stories out there for you to chase. Do you do anything like that right now?
No, we don't have the capacity to chase all the stories that we want. Like, every time I read a great book or I see a great TV series, I'm like, oh my God, and Blair does this too. So Blair, my husband, it's StoryStylus is meant to be do it yourself. And The exception is the content that we're creating right now. That's with a really well-known author. They're not working on the story in so much as they're giving us their feedback and their blessing on our interpretation of their novel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Before we move on, because I really want to dig into this, because I'm thinking of people that I know personally, and maybe people that are even listening to this podcast who might have a great story to tell and now can actually build something like that. You build it. How do you publish a thing? Can you publish it through your company, or is it a self? Can you upload it to Steam? Like, how does that work?
Right now, the way that we have designed everything, and this is for the long-term vision of the company, is people can create content and they can share it.
Yeah.
And as long as they're still abiding by all of our terms of agreement, no vulgar, et cetera, nasty stuff, they can share that with designated people. So that's not open to the public. It's sort of behind a gated wall.
Yeah.
We're looking to curate content. So if the content is spectacular, it's bug-free, has great art and all of those things, we want to publish it.
Okay.
And, it's sometimes people have sort of said, well, why can't I publish it onto Steam?
Yeah.
Well, we want to curate story-based content on onemorestorygames.com.
Yeah, makes sense.
We have an Android app. We have a iOS app that's currently giving me a little bit of a headache, but it'll be up again soon.
Yeah.
It's on our website. It's on Facebook. And, next year and the year after, your content, the content that you make with your little girl, you could just log in on your Xbox and be able to play it within the Story World app, which is our app. And you could play an Xbox game that you made with your daughter.
That is I'm making this my personal story now, but like my wife and I have been planning to make like a kid's book forever, but we never get around to it. And we basically have the story. We just need to draw and put it all together about her imaginary wolf, because she always thinks there's a wolf living in a house, but it's never in the same room as we are. And we're like, that would be such a fun kids book. But now I'm like, I can use StoryStylus and like make that. You have to click on the garage and see if the wolves. Like, I have so many ideas, and that's what I love about this software so much.
One of the challenges that we have faced in the last 5 years is we've been making the game engine at the same time that we've been making content to make sure that the game engine works. And the further we get along with the engine development, the more complex our games get. And we're still a small studio. I mean, it's Blair, myself, and a couple of contractors working on this project. Yeah. And I can't wait to have hundreds and thousands of people creating this great content. Like, next year we want to have a portal that is specifically for kid-oriented content, right? This is family-friendly content. Whereas, on our website right now, there's a game called Danielle's Inferno, which tied for #1 PC Game of the Year from Toronto Game Devs, right? It is a naughty, dark comedy set in hell. Yeah. You go through lust, gluttony, anger, wrath, betrayal, like all the levels. Yeah. And it's cheeky, right? I don't want anybody under 16 listening to that or reading it, because there are some naughty words. The F word is not mentioned once. No. But we are suggestive with some other words.
Okay, yeah, fair enough.
Right? And the two content areas should never, ever, cross streams as they should be.
Clearly. Like you've talked a little bit like how you can use this educational by learning, teaching kids how to use this. But, and I know this is a hard segue and what we also want to talk about, this can also be used almost therapeutically, I think. When you're talking about, I'm thinking about an organization like TakeThis.org that's doing a lot of work around mental well-being. Like, there are stories there. Like, I can see how someone can use a software like this to tell their story and just get it off their chest. Is there anything like you should go talk to Take This right now? But like, are you exploring those kind of areas, or can I hook you up with someone?
You know what? Absolutely. We are interested. That's a big part of why we're doing this. Yeah. I mean, I want the company to be successful enough that we can grow our team and that we can make meaningful and mature content.
Yeah.
The kids stuff and the educational stuff, that will all come naturally and evolve out of that space. But like the game that we're working on right now, so if you want to talk about mental health issues, the game that we're working on right now is an adaptation of Charlaine Harris's novel called Shakespeare's Landlord. Now, for those of you listening not familiar with Charlaine, she's best known for her Sookie Stackhouse series that HBO adapted to True Blood, which was the #1 HBO show before Game of Thrones. Yeah. So, kind of a big deal.
That other tiny show, yeah.
Yeah, that other tiny show. Yeah. And, she sold over 36 million novels. And when we approached her 4 years ago, we said, listen, we're interested in working with you to create some interactive stories out of your novels. That was one of the series that was available to us. It's the Lily Bard series or the Shakespeare series. It is about a woman who is coming to terms with and recovering from PTSD from a brutal abduction and sexual assault. And it's kind of like Nancy Drew meets Girl with a Dragon Tattoo, right? This is when I was the one that read the novel and I went, you know what, she's a badass woman. And I wasn't thinking about the narrative challenges initially when we signed the agreement of, how are we going to discuss the rape and all of the other flashbacks and the things that she's dealing with. And our game designers were like, what have you done? Like you've signed up for this novel. Yeah. But as we've been going through it deeper and deeper, I'm excited that we're putting this issue into the forefront in a narrative game. It's like, we're going to explore what it is to have an anxiety attack. Yeah. And to be triggered, what it is to be slut-shamed, what it is to experience this culture. Yeah. And I have no idea what the reception is going to be. No. But I will tell you that when we agreed to this, when we finally signed the agreement 2.5 years ago, I had no idea that the Me Too movement would be happening right now. No. Right? This is... in a way, it's like this came at the perfect time. I think this game is going to resonate with a lot of people. Yeah. And my hope is that they'll have a deeper sense of empathy and they won't feel so alone in having survived that horrible experience.
Yeah. And, that's the beauty of games, that it is growing so much in both scope and what we can do with it. So when I read about this, I was like, okay, this is so, and this is when I only knew the surface of what you were doing with the actual software. But where would you, like, this is one big thing, and I think we haven't even scratched the surface on what you're working on with that right now. How well known is this that you're working on this? Because I knew because I looked for it. How far along are we?
The art is nearly done. They're speeding along. I think we have about 6 weeks left on the art, 5 weeks maybe. Yeah. And the narrative's coming along. We had some delays. We had some indie studio experiences, which were struggles. Yeah. And not ideal, but it is what it is. It's coming out sometime this year.
Oh, really? Oh, that's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we've been talking about it. I mean, my hope was when we first got started with it, we started doing the pre-pro last May. We may have jumped the gun because we were going to actually do a small scope game, just like Danielle's Inferno, and it was just going to be like short and sweet, and this is what it was. And then it grew, and it grew, and it grew, and it's like, oh, this is going to take longer. Yeah. But it's been out there. We talk about it. I'm actually giving a talk about PTSD and sexual violence in games at the Grace Hopper Conference, which is in Houston in September. Yeah. I've been trying to get people's attention about this, and I've got some really phenomenal media lined up for this fall with mainstream organizations that most indie games would never get mentioned in. Okay. And it has to do everything with the content. Yeah. And why it's relevant at this time and place in our cultural history. Yeah. Is this something, like, you're an independent developer, but if this would hit like big time, would this be received well if done through a large publisher?
Like, do you think you should have a spot on a stage at like a big show with a game like this? Because I think it's important. I think the gaming industry needs these kind of experiences, but it shouldn't be hidden in a little corner of the gaming space. Like, has anyone approached you on this? Not yet, maybe. If you can talk about that, obviously.
I feel like, well, I've had some interesting conversations with people over the past year and a half, because we have popped up on some high-profile people's radar.
Yeah.
And I feel like they, like in some of those instances, they were judging us on our past work.
Yeah.
And I feel like, okay, well, I get why you're doing that, because that's what you see.
Yeah.
But I'd really love to show you what we're working on now, because, you know, our last game had 1/10 of the budget of the one that we're working on now. Like, this is a significant budget for an indie game. And even within the budget of indie games, I know it ranges from like, I spent $200 all the way up to $5 million, and that's still considered indie.
Game,
But, you know, to answer your question, I won't lie and say that I don't think it deserves. I do think it deserves the recognition for the writing quality, for the adaptation that we're putting together, for the art alone.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking in a recent podcast. So when we were doing this last summer, we were thinking, okay, so this is how much art we want, and bam, 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 let's just like do things really quick. Again, small scope.
Yeah.
I raised some extra money. We blew out our budget. And we started to revisit some of our choices artistically. And, you know, the conversation I had with my artist yesterday, just for the final images that we're working on, I was getting goosebumps and like crying.
Yeah.
This is, I don't think that anyone's going to look at this art and go, oh, well, that's just indie art. It's like, no. This is, we're trying to elevate games into the equivalent of literature. Somebody's going to listen to this and go, who does she think she is? I'm like, that's who I think I am.
Both my listeners are super great.
There you go. All of your listeners are super awesome. And, you know, I look at my game, Danielle's Inferno, actually 4 people who all sort of took turns writing on it.
Yeah.
I've played some of the other games that were nominated for Narrative Game of the Year that same year.
Yeah.
We should have been included in there, but nobody knew about us.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. It's a really, really good game. People cry at the ending.
Yeah.
And they say it's one of the best narrative games they've ever played. So it is. It's going to be that challenge between people knowing about us and people wanting to take a chance on something that is like a novel video game hybrid.
Yeah. Are you ready for this being like the thing that's going to blow your company like not out of the water, but like into the spotlight? Because that's good, because I think the space is ripe for it. Like, we've had some very strong narrative games, like games is Life is Strange, the recent one. Like, those are getting more and more popular, so I would love to see what you're working on now being recognized like that. But as you say, like, you're still the little indie studio waiting for the big break. I'm pretty sure Microsoft's going to be like, oh, yoink, we're going to pick these guys up, because that's what they do nowadays. So that would be great. It's a good thing this is not on video, otherwise you would have got some good some clues here.
I've had some interesting conversations with some people, and you know, so I've been doing stand-up comedy and public speaking for actually 13 years now.
Wow.
I lose track. I say it's 12. It's 13 now. And what I've noticed is I'm getting more and more opportunities to speak in the games industry because of the breadth of what we've done. Yeah. Right? If we just made games with Unity or Unreal, excuse me, I think we would have still made great games. But there's something different in that we made the game engine. We're targeting readers. We're targeting authors. We've worked with kids. We made games at the same time. And we landed a New York Times bestseller in our second year, our first year actually. So we're an anomaly, and we're making games for women over 30. Like, nothing we do is normal. No. And I'm totally cool with that.
Oh yeah, no,
I'm absolutely cool with
it's
that.
great. And you've been around too, because we were joking earlier today on Twitter about how everybody knows each other. And I had Osama Dorius on my show 3 weeks ago, and he piped in like, "Oh, I love Gene." I was like, "Oh my god, you guys are all so well connected." But that must help. Like you've been around, you know the people, and that's just the way to do it. It seems from me on the other side of the games industry, like you're on a great path to great success. And now you have like a killer
Thank you.
app.
From your lips to the universe.
Yeah.
Like I will say that I spend probably at least 14 hours a week, so on average at least 2 hours a day, relationship building with people. Right? I do my work, and I also do the relationship building, which is also a part of my work.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about making sincere, meaningful connections with people.
Yeah.
It has opened up opportunities. Like we had an opportunity to go and work with some young girls at Microsoft a year and a half ago, which is what I talk about in the TEDx talk, because of relationships that I had built on Facebook.
Yeah.
And the speaking opportunities, I can't talk about it because it's not officially out there, but I know it's official.
Yeah.
But those opportunities came out of relationship building.
Yeah.
So, if you're listening to this podcast and you're like, I want to make games and I'm going to go make games, don't forget that making games is also being part of a community.
Yeah.
And not everybody in the community is going to love you.
Mm-hmm.
There's people I don't like. There's people that don't like me. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, find your people.
Yeah.
Find your people.
Yeah. I always find this an interesting topic because on my side, it's the same thing. Like I came out of a Twitch chat for the Game Trailers website where I was just dicking around in their chat, and I was like, wow, with these guys, I want to do that too. And then I built my brand, I did my things, and now I can go do a podcast, I can talk to interesting people. Like, it's doable, but dear Lord, it's a lot of work. Like relationship building is not easy. Like you have to put the time in. But you as an independent, like must have gone through the same thing, because doesn't matter how good your product is, without those relationships, you're still just a little company that nobody's heard of, right? So,
very much so. And I think what's been interesting, because Blair's been at this for 5 years. I came on a little bit later after he incorporated. And, he went from being the CEO to making me the CEO, the face of the company, which has hurt us and helped us at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you know this, but less than 3% of funding goes to women.
Okay, no, I did not know that, yeah.
Yeah. So we still have like an uphill climb in terms of women's representation in the games industry, and us getting the same funding for being just as qualified as men who are developing content.
Yeah.
But, I think because we've been consistent about our messaging, our vision, our storytelling, our sharing the content, we show up and we do it.
Yeah.
There have been instances like last year when I put on Facebook just to my intimate personal circles, like, well, if you've ever wanted to invest with One More Story Games, here is your opportunity.
Yeah.
And money rolled in.
That's
and
sweet,
it isn't because it's because we showed up and we were consistent, and we've always been passionate and driven, and we do what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
And that's a huge piece of it.
Yeah. Do you have is there a good network when it comes to like women in gaming, and like not just developers, but because I know about Pixels here in Montreal. They I'm not sure if you ever work with them. I love that group. I gotta have Rebecca on my show at some point. But how's that network behind the scene? Because we don't see that often, right? We see the product, and then maybe the famous face behind a very popular product. But how does it work on the background? Like, is it cutthroat, or is it like super nice?
I gotta say a bit of both.
A little bit of both.
I'm not gonna lie.
No, well,
I'm not gonna lie.
I'm not looking for drama, but I'm just curious.
Well, like for example, there's a Facebook group called Women in Technology and Games. That has been fantastic. I've met so many amazing people. I've tweeted a couple of like I've tweeted a couple of things in the past 2 weeks that kind of went viral.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I had like 300 new followers. So I'm almost at 3,000. I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. And now there's more interaction.
Yeah.
But I tend to typically follow women game devs.
Yeah.
Like I'm very strategic about who I follow because that's the community that I want to be a part of.
Yeah.
And I also want to make myself available to mentoring. So we have two really amazing mentors who've been with us for a while. So Kate Edwards, she was formerly the head of the IGDA, the International Game Developers Association. So Kate's been a formal mentor for us for a year today or a year yesterday. And then Megan Geyser, who used to be the head of Her Interactive.
Yeah.
And why Megan is so badass is Megan was the head of Her Interactive getting Nancy Drew point-and-click adventure games going when investors did not think girls played games back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right? So we have some pretty awesome people in our lives, and that's what we try to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
As for drama, there's always going to be drama, right?
Yeah.
There's... I've come across my fair share of it. It'll go into my memoirs.
Yeah, one day.
People can buy my book.
Yay.
People
Plug.
can buy the book.
Yeah. Like I've talked about this before, but like this E3, we saw what seemed to be like a shift in representation in like female protagonists, because it takes 5 years to build a game at least. So we had that movement starting a while ago. But now I want to hear what you're working on and what others are working on. Do you think this is a shift that is keep going, or is this year going to be a one-off? Or do you see enough support?
It is not
for
a one-off.
Yeah.
It is not a one-off.
Yeah.
I often get asked, what can women do? And I'm like, build our own studios.
Yeah.
Which is easier said than done.
Yeah.
Right? Because the funding piece is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
But build the content that you want to play.
Yeah.
And honestly, truly, that was our starting vision with this, is I wanted to make point-and-click adventure games like the one I loved. Mm-hmm. And I knew that there would be other women who want the same.
Yeah.
And so if you go to our website, with the exception of the fact that you can play as Barack Obama, all of our games have a female protagonist to them. That is something that's important to us. Mm-hmm. So as we grow and expand and we have more content creators that want to publish content, I'm not going to lie, I'm probably going to be biased. If you've got a great female strong character, then great. The odds of you getting published with us are going to increase.
Yeah.
The point that I made on that viral tweet was, I think for some people, when they think of gender equality or gender equity, is that somehow there's going to be less for men because women will want more. Mm-hmm. What if, here's a radical idea, what if there's the same amount there is for men, and we just add more for the women?
Yeah.
It's not pie.
No, exactly.
We're not splitting it up halvesies. It's like, look, there's more pie.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's going to happen, is you're going to see more women making great content, more people from diverse backgrounds of gendered sexual preference and racial and class, and all of the things that divide us are going to be the things that unite us.
Yeah. No, I'm super, and I know this sounds stupid because I'm just a white dude who's probably had a blind spot for this for the longest times. And I know it's the trope, oh, now I have a daughter, now all of a sudden it's important. No, it's not true that now all of a sudden it's important, but you notice it more. And I noticed it specifically, that divide when I moved to North America, because back in Holland, a toy store is not as split up as it is here in North America with the pink aisles and the blue aisles. It was always a little bit of a mishmash. And now it's just so hyper... I can see it so well. Oh, this is for the boys, this is for the girls. So I'm super stoked about all this extra, like you said, additional content that's coming out that I know my girl, if she takes interest in this, there will be a choice for her. She'll see herself represented in media. And I just love that. And if people are worried that it's less for them, please do not come bother me with that, first of all.
Well, and when we went into the classroom, we did a pilot program with a grade 6-7 split gifted class.
Yeah.
And we went in and I'm a girl, so I was like, yay, girls are awesome, girls are smart.
Yeah.
And then I I saw the face of one of the
Mm-hmm.
boys, and I went, "Oh shoot!" Well, I thought the expletive version of that, and I went, "You know what?" And I backtracked and I went, "And boys are awesome too."
Yeah.
I'm happy that we sponsored a 50-50 ratio for our girls and boys in 2016, the last time we did a
Yeah.
camp for the summer, because we've been in production 2 summers on this project. I'm happy about that because I don't feel like it's an 8, 10, 12-year-old boy's fault
Mm-hmm.
that we live in a patriarchal society
Mm-hmm.
that oppresses women and wants to take away our rights to our uterus.
Mm-hmm.
It's not his fault.
Yeah.
So I think that, segregating them and doing boys camps, girls camps, I'm never going to really think that that's a great idea. I know there are reasons behind it and I
Yeah.
support that. What I would like to see is having educators, even accidental ones like us,
Yeah.
have boys and girls in the same space and teach them what it's like to respect each other
Yeah.
and to hear each other's contributions, and so that they value one another,
Yeah.
because that's a big component of this. Then when they see boys content, girls content, it's not gonna. One of our games is Hard Vacuum Lullaby.
Yeah.
It's a half-hour space adventure, and the cast is all female.
Yeah.
I watch boys play that, and they're like, "Wow, that was a really great game." They don't pay attention to that it's all girls.
No.
They're just like, "That was a really great game."
Yeah.
So we have to stop poisoning people with that,
Mm-hmm.
but also making sure that we are mindful about that content existing in the first place.
No, I think it's cool, and just the
That's
thought.
my soapbox.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect soapbox, and I think it's important that the opportunity is. Well, I shouldn't say now easier than ever, because I'm pretty sure there's obstacles, and like you said, like only 3% still 2018 is going to female developers and companies. So we're clearly not there yet, but
No.
it's a start, right? It's always better than nothing. How can we, as in me, people like me, do to support these kind of initiatives and content, other than just playing it and exposing our fan base to it?
Well, I think that's like the two key things, right? Is to actually support the content creators who are doing the diverse storytelling. Mm-hmm. It's, I wish that we had more people of color working on our team. Mm-hmm. Our team is 4 people right now.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
And they're the team that we've had for the past year. We have had women working on the project. Our woman writer is on maternity leave. She just had a beautiful baby girl last month. Mm-hmm. It's our job as developers to be mindful of the fact: are we including people in our story content? Are we writing from a place of your standard tropes? Mm-hmm. And as content creators or content consumers, yes, please amplify the voices. Like, I went through and I followed a whole bunch of game devs of color, because I don't know a lot of game devs of color. It's mm-hmm. like, okay, so expose me to that content. Writers of color. Okay, so I'm reading writers of color now, because otherwise you get in your bubble.
Yeah.
And, being in your bubble is where people start going, well, that's not for me.
Yeah.
That's other stuff. So
yeah,
definitely expose yourself to other things.
Yeah, and I think Twitter, I'm obviously a big Twitter fan by all the shit posting I do, but that has...
That'll get you in trouble in 10 years.
I know. I tweeted I'm going to post some wholesome content so I get a promotion in 10 years from now. If you're listening to this late, yeah, it's today and yesterday where all that happened. But Twitter has opened my bubble so significantly, because my friends in my real life friends are all white people, white dudes, straight, married, 2 kids, because I live in suburban Canada here. So then I started becoming more active on Twitter, and all of a sudden I have friends out of all social circles, and my life, or how I view things, have changed significantly by being exposed to these voices. So I always try to uplift voice when I can, mm-hmm. but it's good to know that it actually works, other than just hitting the retweet button without thought.
what I have found the most interesting and sort of like heartwarming is, I don't know, this year in particular, I am more connected to game devs. I've been working at it and all of that stuff. But what I have noticed with the indie game devs is how many of them identify as
Mm-hmm.
LGBTQ2IA, and how many of them are in monogamous versus polygamous relationships and,
Yeah.
and practice polyamory. And it's like, wow, there is quite the diversity within the indie game dev scene.
Yeah.
Or maybe that's my bubble, because I do subscribe to a block list.
Yeah. Fair enough.
And
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe those other people are on the block list. I
Yeah.
don't know. But there's some really incredible people out there, and it's starting to be reflected in the content. I've met some really cool Australians
Mm-hmm.
when I was at GDC and leading up to GDC. They're making some really cool content.
Yeah.
I don't get into Toronto as much as I would like to,
Yeah.
but I know there's a lot of really great Toronto game devs, and that's sort of a spotlight on our scene as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
It's
It's
exciting.
pretty cool. Yeah, it is pretty cool. I've noticed the same thing. So it's not just your bubble. When I started getting more active in the gaming industry and like because I follow a lot of devs as well. Just what you said. Also, people way more open on mental health than any other industry I've ever seen. I love that. Like gaming sometimes often gets a bad rep, and deservedly so, I think, on some of the issues that go on. But when you meet the people that make the stuff, they are almost all wonderful people. Like the content creators on both sides. I deeply enjoy being a part of this. So I invite everybody, but I'm one of the lucky ones that door has been opened, I guess, for me. But there's so much good stuff in here, and it's too bad that when it hits the news, it's always garbage.
Yeah.
But
Well, and when I talk to women over 30,
Mhm.
and I ask them, "Do you play games?" They'll be like, "No, no." And I'm like, "So do you have any games on your phone?" They're like, "Yeah."
Yeah,
It's so funny because, first of all, there's like that huge attitude of, well, I'm on console and I'm superior,
yeah,
or I have 400 games on my Steam account and I'm superior,
yeah,
versus somebody who probably plays a lot of mobile games.
Mhm.
I play mobile games because, to be honest, at the end of my 12-hour day, I don't want to be on my PC. I
Yeah.
am done.
yeah,
If I had a current console, I'd probably be playing console games.
Yeah.
I read a lot. But the people who play games but who don't identify as gamer,
Mhm.
they're not the toxic ones.
no,
It's the ones for whom it's become their sole badge in life is, I'm a gamer.
yeah,
That it's like, you're consuming someone else's art content.
yeah,
You're actually an art consumer.
yeah. Wow, we
And
should all
art
call ourselves art consumers. Yeah, I like that.
We are, yes,
Yeah.
right? And you're not better than this person or that person. You're just a consumer.
Yeah. No,
You're a
I
consumer.
I still have a positive outlook on where this industry is going as a whole. Even in the recent weeks, there have been some great developments on how we look at communities and what we need and what we don't need. But what you're doing, I think, is just fantastic, because you're opening up a whole new market, I think, for content creators and stories. And I'm a sucker for a story, which is why I'm not enjoying Octopath Traveler right now. Sorry, I had to sneak that in there. Good comment. Garbage storyline. Anyways, that was great. I'm so happy that I got to talk to you about this, because I'm so curious about what you're all doing and what's coming out later this year. It's going to be amazing. So I always end on podcast and shill, but we've been shilling for your company pretty much all episode, and rightfully so. But where can we find you? Where can we find more about you, your person, and your company, and all that stuff?
Well, if you haven't had enough of Jean Leggett, you can head over to jeanleggett.com. I have links to a couple of the videos that I have done over the years. There's the TED Talk. There's some laughter yoga there.
Oh my
If you're
goodness.
feeling particularly stressed and you
Yeah.
want some mindfulness. Like I said, I used to teach joy mindfulness.
Yeah.
I had a program called Joy Boot Camp for a while. So if you want something quirky and get to know me a little bit better, that's where you go. If you're interested in experiencing narrative-based games that are novel meets game, then head over to bookmeetsgame.com or onemorestorygames.com, and you'll be able to find us.
Okay.
You can also find the links for our game engine there as well. But
Okay.
play Danielle's Inferno. It really is a great game, and if it doesn't make you laugh out loud, I'll give you your money back.
Okay. Oh, that's a good one. And Trumpy Cat, can we play Trumpy Cat as well?
You can. However, I have noticed that there's one little bug that I'm going to have to get Blair to fix.
Okay. Fair enough. The cat is not orange. What's the...
She was going to do a sequel called Dorothy Cat in Space, where Trumpy Cat meets his father, Dorothy Cat.
Oh, wow. I need to meet this girl. She sounds fantastic.
She's awesome.
Yeah.
She's awesome. Just don't go with Hillary Cat.
No, that's we can't do that. We can't do that. Anything else you want to throw out there? Because you still got the floor for. Because I could listen to you talk like for hours and hours. But
well, I would love it if you are interested in trying out this Nancy Drew meets the girl with the dragon tattoo. Go and check out our website at lilybard.com. That's LILYBARD.com, and that's got some preview art from the game. There's an email list so that you don't miss. We're just at the end of the day, I'm super excited to be making mature content because. I don't know about you. I have now been playing games for 33 years. So ever since I was 8, I've been playing games. I don't want to play games that an 8-year-old would play, probably because they would beat me at it. and I hope that people will come and check them out and get excited about that and maybe even think about the games that they want to make themselves.
Yeah. No, I can't wait for everybody to at least try so. And if you made a game with this software, please let me know, and then we'll link it out there. And I want to see all the things. Well, thank you so much. I have to do my own plug as well because I'm really bad at this. And I'm gonna do it properly right now. So I am the Hashtagonist, and if you're listening to this podcast and you like what you hear, please. And I've never do this, and I should do this more often. Leave a review. Give me a couple of stars. Leave a line, because then my visibility goes up. And Gene probably knows how hard it sucks to be not visible when you have good stuff. So that would be a great help. And if you want to support it directly, you can also do that at patreon.com/thehashtagonist. And Mom, if you're still listening, thanks so much for always tuning in. She doesn't, though. She does not tune in to my show. This was great, Gene. I really had a great time.
Well, thank you very much for having me. So, are you officially stopped recording?
No, I'm still recording. So, if you're still listening to us right now, I'm gonna kick you out because it's been a long day. And thanks so much, and hopefully we'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me.